frontin'. I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out.
Hello, Miami. Thank you so much for watching 305 Sports. Now, I am your host, Will, and we are now in day 4 and the final day of 305 Live during spring week. Okay, so we have a loaded show for you. So before I begin, I'd like to thank everyone that has participated in the first 3 nights of 305 Live Spring Week, which has been Hoodie Girl, my cousin John, Flo, Lex, my boy Q, right, as well, my buddy Tyreek, Gracia as well. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we all have another star-studded lineup for you as well. As we begin first, okay, with the Caneswear podcast, as we bring in, you guys may know him. He's very active on X. If you guys follow him on X, Uncle Cliff. What's up, Uncle Cliff? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, Will? How you doing, bro? Thanks for having me.
No, not a problem, man. We've exchanged a lot of details with each other and stuff like that on threads over X. It's the first time you actually joined the show, man. So I'm very happy to have you on.
Yeah, I appreciate it, bro. Anytime.
And I appreciate you coming on as well, man. I really appreciate it. And next on the list, okay, is a very good friend of mine. All right, I'm gonna be nice to him, much nicer than his friends are on his show. Ladies and gentlemen, it's none other than one of the faces of the UHeard podcast. You guys know him as Benny Boondocks. What's up, Benny? How you doing?
What up, man? Good, brother. Good, man. Good to see you again, Will. It's always a good time, man.
Oh, absolutely, man.
See you again in person, man. Well,
what's up, buddy?
In person, right? Like in person.
Yes. Yeah. All right, and joining us right now, okay, I was just corrected before I introduced him, so thank goodness. Joining us right now is a very good friend of mine. We actually work together, all right, as well. He is a 5-time state champion over, actually 6-time, okay, I forgot, 6-time actually, if you count the other school. 6-time state champion. He actually made Westland Hialeah High School, yes, Westland Hialeah High School, an independent league runner-up as well. He does everything at our school. God bless him. He does all the hard work, especially with the kids with special needs. And this is my good friend, Coach Gross. What's up, Coach? How's it going?
Oh, man. Thank you for having me on, Will.
No, you're always welcome on here, man. I always love hearing a coach's perspective on things. We're supposed to have a couple more guests as well. Actually 3. Brett had a family event he had to attend to. Miami Mondo had his child is sick. He may or may not hop on. We'll see later on. And Gio Milian is still trying to hop on as well. So we haven't forgotten him as well. So, but ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Today we're going to be going over, it's going to be a bit of a different format. We're going over tight ends and wide receivers. And we're also, since we have a coach that deals a lot with the recruiting and talking to coaches and taking on visits with the kids as well, we're going to get a coach's perspective from a first person perspective from Coach Gross. But I'd like to start first with the tight end position. The tight end position was a position under the first year of Shannon Dawson's very underutilized. We did have injuries as well, and there was a lack of experience. The second year under Dawson's offense, we really saw the tight end position take hold. Unfortunately, Riley Williams hit the transfer portal. We saw the ascension of Elijah Arroyo, and we saw some spark from Elijah Lofton. So I want to ask you guys, starting first with Benny Boondocks, okay? Benito Boondocks, actually.
I went Spanish with it.
Yeah, Benito Boondocks. All right, in general, to see what he thinks about the tight end position in this upcoming spring and this upcoming season.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about it. Elijah Lofton's a freak of nature. I don't think we've had a football player. He reminds me a lot of former number 9 that played with the Canes. A little bit shorter, but just a freak of nature, man. Brock shot, dude. Like I said it on my show. And Mario, I feel like Mario watched Coach Cristobal watch the show. He looks like physically, he looks like a superstar, bro. Like he looks like he's 20 years old, fully, you know what I'm saying? 22 years old, and he's a true freshman. Was it Luke, right? Luke Gilbert, 6'8", freaking another, bro. Like the depth that we have there, and not even counting the upperclassmen, right? The Jack Nickel and what's up, Alex Baum, what's up, Bauman, yeah. Like we have 5 to 6 there. You know, sadly, Jackson Carver got hurt in spring, and hopefully he heals up and ready for the season with the ACL. But yeah, man, like I'm very excited about it. Like First year we were worried like, yo, does he throw to the tight ends? Year two, like, okay, he does throw to the tight ends, and we have Elijah Arroyo teaching Elijah Loftus. So I'm excited about it, man. I'm all in, all gas, no brakes on that, man.
Cliff,
On tight end, for sure.
Cliff, what about your perspective?
Yeah, well, Elijah Lofton is just a monster, dude. That dude does everything. He could be you could put him at running back, you could put him at wide receiver, you could put him at tight end. He's a beast. And then like he said, the two freshmen those kids are going to be studs. You never know with freshmen, but I mean, with how they came in, the way they're built, the way they're playing hard in spring, I think that we're solid there.
Okay, Coach, what about you? Heard anything from the tight ends?
I mean, I like to say a tight end position in football, right? It's equivalent to me of like KD or LeBron playing the three, right? So you're going to be bigger than the guys that could run with you, and you're going to be faster than the guys that could bang with you, right? So it's like when you have a really well-rounded tight end, you create this incredible mismatch on the field, no matter where you play them. I love tight ends that can line up in the box and block. It becomes an extra lineman, extra down lineman, and that at the same time, you can put a motion and split out and become like that one-on-one mismatch outside. And I think Miami does. They've kind of showed that they can do a really good job utilizing that position, and I think they have the personnel to have some pretty good depth, at the tight end position coming up, and to be able to pick up, especially to me, like third down is like tight end down, right? That's like, all right, let's find the mismatch. It's like a KD ISO, right? Like let's find the mismatch and let's get past the sticks and keep the chains moving. So I mean, I think they stack up pretty well there, and I think it could be a huge, box checked off for them in the plus minus column.
Gio, you're in practice when as much as they let you see in practice. You guys get about 30 minutes at a time, depending on the day. What have you seen from the tight end position from your own perspective, whether it's Brock Schott, Luka Gilbert, or even the guys like Elijah Lofton that we have on the roster?
I think Elijah Lofton, you can make a very strong argument that he's the best overall player on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, we haven't seen Carson Beck yet playing and whatnot. Limited throughout spring. He'll start throwing. But in terms of the other tight ends, though, Brock Schott is a guy that can really get vertical. A guy that surprised me, Luka Gilbert, just his size where he's at this point, 6'7", 250 pounds, was a little bit bigger, just at least mass-wise, than I was expecting for him to be when he got here. I will say, though, just speaking to some people around the program, there's a lot of people that are high on Alex Bowman, the transfer from Tulane. The words that I got was consistent, hard worker. I think he's going to really factor into that mix there, like between like him, Lofton obviously being your alpha in the room, and then they'll kind of figure it from there.
Gio, I have a question for you, and since you have your ear a little bit to the team, there's been talks about, I mean, it's just a rumor, obviously, but there's been talks about possibly Luka playing eventually offensive line, becoming the next Eric Winston. Have you heard anything about that, or is that just something that we came up with on social media?
I don't think necessarily he'll end up being an offensive lineman. I feel like that he's got some movement ability to him. I don't think he's necessarily a guy that transitions to being an offensive lineman. I think there is one guy that Miami's recruiting this year, and Jose Kent from the Georgia area, that he's kind of teetering on that edge of, is he Darnell Washington or is he going to be an offensive tackle?
Yeah, well, they're recruiting him as a tight end, and if you look at that kid's film, 300 pounds, he probably runs a 4.7 with solid hands and very difficult to tackle. I let that kid cook wherever he wants to cook, man. If he wants to cook as a tight end, let him cook as a tight end. The best part about him is that you could actually line him up in line and disguise him as an offensive lineman, as a hybrid. So that is a really hope that Miami lands that young man. I'd be very excited. So what have you heard about his recruitment as far as it goes?
Miami and Florida, mainly the big two that stick out there early on. He's going to take his round of official visits. No expected imminent decision for him, though. Okay. So now that you mentioned him, he's actually one of my favorite players in this upcoming recruiting cycle, especially after I saw a film thanks to D Money over at Canes Insight. Big shout out to D Money and Peter Ariz.
Benny, what do you think about Hezekiah? Have you seen him?
He's a freaking he's like 6'5", 6'6", 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Depending on the day, it might be over 300, might be 285. What it's like to be young and running around with that kind of weight is fantastic, bro. Like to me, he's a perfect end line blocker and a perfect freaking nature in that for what they wanted to do, right? You always want to, like Coach Cristobal showed it, like he wants an end line blocker every class and a pass catcher every class, right? Like a kind of undersized tight end that 215 to 225, and then a guy that could either shrink down or could use him as an end line blocker. So he's perfect for what they want to do. If they want to go with him and get another tight end, he's perfect. He's a perfect complementary to how they recruit.
Mm-hmm. No, I absolutely agree with you, Benny. And Juan, it's 4 nights, brother. 4 nights. I've been at this 4 nights,
Juan.
man. Thank you, Juan. A big shout out, man. Thank you so much for your support. He's one of the most loyal listeners on the show, man. Yeah, man.
Fantastic.
A fantastic Kings fan. Fantastic Kings fan. Okay, we got I got jumped on X and I got jumped on another Google channel. So keep them coming, guys. I appreciate you guys. Yes, Juan. Wow. Yes, I'm exhausted. Dealing with kids, waking up at 5:30 in the morning, dealing with high schoolers that come over here, and then do this on YouTube. But let me tell you, man, I'm having a blast, bro. And all of us on here that do this, we could say that we have a good time chopping it up with you guys over in the Twitter sphere, X sphere, whatever it's called now, and YouTube as well. Cliff, before I jump to Coach Gross, Cliff, what do you think about Hezekiah? If you've been following his recruitment,
stud. I haven't. My thing is, I try to look at all the guys that Gio and Pete and D Money and these guys say. So I know some of these guys. I don't know all of them as much, but as soon as we know that they were gonna get them or something, or they commit, then I'm all in. So I've been burned so many times on some of this stuff. So you never know which way to go with some of these kids, especially now with NIL and everything else. It's a little crazy.
Okay. Coach, I want to ask you a question since we're talking about recruitment. Well, we're gonna go back. We're gonna go to the wide receivers in a second, but when you see a kid getting all these offers and so on, and you go on visits with these kind of young men, especially these young men that are getting a lot of attention, especially from the national media and from big time schools. How do you keep a kid focused in school and keep in school and his schoolwork, but also keep him humble as well as far as the person goes?
That's a layered question.
Okay.
There's so many levels of recruitment, right? And you have this very small percentage of kids that really have, all these 30, 40 offers, right? A lot of the time kids really don't have that. They might think they do, right? But there's that special top echelon of those really highly recruited players that everyone's after, everyone's sought after, they can go whatever they want. Offers aren't always real for a lot of these kids, right? That's why they're verbal offers. And then, it's this idea of, well, if I'm a college coach and I have 6, open, well, not even 6, let me say 2 open scholarship positions at receiver, right? I'm not going to offer 2 kids because if one of them goes to UF or Florida State or Georgia, I can't fill the 2 open spots. So I'm going to offer, 12 kids, right? And then we'll narrow it down as it gets closer to 8 kids. And then, and you have to overplay the system, right? So one is like the reality check for kids. Like, look, like until you sign a paper, man, the grind is not over, right? Like they're watching everything that you do. And then that comes into play, like the humbleness, because it's like, you don't have to lose an offer on the field. You can lose an offer for something stupid you say on Twitter, right? You can lose an offer off getting suspended for a fight in school. Like, it's such a fine line between going to a D1 school and all of a sudden I don't have anything, I'm going to JUCO. And it happens in the blink of an eye. So, I mean, I think, man, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but I think like the biggest enemy for a lot of these kids is like misinformed adults, whether it's like parents or coaches or, like that really don't have a full understanding of the process and they're feeding them wrong information. And then the kids buying into information that's not really accurate. So the number one thing is like, it's to me, like recruiting is no different than like raising a child, right? It's like that community, that support system they have, and how solid they are, and how beneficial is the advice that they're giving that individual.
Coach, I have a question for you. Then I'll open it up for the guys if they want to ask you a question as well. We've heard that sometimes coaches, when they want another player that opens up his recruitment, they may decide to tell a kid, hey, listen, we don't have a spot for you this recruiting cycle, but there's a school that we can pretty much guide you to go to. If that individual this is heartbroken because they really wanted to go to that school. Like say they wanted to go to Miami, but Miami says, hey, listen, we want another guy because we think he fits our system a little better. How do you tell a young man, like how do you deal with that, as a coach and also as a mentor?
It's difficult, man. Like I try to tell the kids all the time, your recruiting window is it's this big, like it comes and goes so fast, especially now with the portal, right? So it's like in the blink of an eye, you go from being sought after to no one cares anymore, right? And so it's like, I mean, one of my famous sayings with my players was always, get yourself a girlfriend before you get yourself a wife, right? And it's like, man, commit somewhere, have something verbal, put pressure on someone that they hold them accountable. Like, no, you said I got an offer. I committed to you. Now I have this offer. You didn't sign a paper either. The same way, like they're going to play this game with you, play that game right back with them. And what happens so much, it's funny, man. It's like you have a player commit somewhere, automatically what happens, right? So I'm gonna use, for example, I'll use UM for example. And I'm not saying UM does it, I'm just saying because we're talking about UM. If I'm a player and I commit to UM and UM wasn't, when Florida State wasn't looking at me, they're gonna at least look at me a little bit and be like, well, who's this guy UM getting? Because now I have to play them every year. You know what I'm saying? Like, so now in division rivals, they're gonna look at you a little closer because now you're potentially competition. So there is it's still a business at the end of the day, right? And there's a method behind all of it. And kids have to, unfortunately, because they're kids, they're barely young men, they're kids, right? When you're in high school, you're a kid. And they have to let go of the fan theory of like, I love this school because I grew up watching this, and look at the business aspect of it. And like I said, again, it kind of does come down to that support system surrounding them and them getting, the right information.
Very good answers, Joe. Very, very, very insightful. Does anybody on the panel want to ask him a question in particular about the recruiting side of things, or just, the high school scene in general?
Yeah, I got a question. How have you seen a change over the last, I guess, like we go like 4 years where like NIL really kicked off? How have you seen that process change? Where like, because and the social mediaification of it, where like other kids are seeing like, oh, so and so got this many millions or this much money, and then they start, betting against themselves, like, oh, I should get that much money too, and they hold out for a committable offer, get their money for 1 year and prove themselves. How have you seen those conversations change?
So I really think I don't really think it's NIL and portal. I think it's that combination of the two, right? Because what I've seen, and I hate to like beat a dead horse, but I think it goes back again to misinformation, because it's not just like, oh, you got to give me this, like, oh, I'm jumping in the portal and then this guy's getting much money, so I know I'm going to get this, I know I'm going to get that, and the portal's so saturated, right? So we hear about, again, that upper echelon of kids that are being pulled out the portal, but man, you got thousands of kids sitting in the portal, and I think, again, it's that, that misconception of like, well, I know I'm going to get, oh, they got to give me this much money, they have to give me this. And you're losing the fact of, I'm a believer, and I preach this to my kids. I'm a believer, like, one, like, first thing, make sure you have a plan at school to get an education. Second is, if you put in the work, like, I'm a firm believer, if you put in the work and you put in the effort and you are, put into yourself, the outcome is everything that you potentially want from a school, whether it be money, whether it be a starting position, whatever it may be, is gonna come to fruition. And I used to have this conversation with my kids all the time, and I would be like, all right, there's 70 of you in this room. If I gave you $1 million right now, but you couldn't keep it, you had to bet on one player in this room, the whole million, who would you bet on to make it? And my answer was always them. If you didn't pick yourself, then what are you doing wrong? Because if someone gave me $1 million right now, I'm betting on myself because I'm not going to let myself bet. Whatever I have to do, I'm going to do it. So if you don't feel, if you wouldn't bet that money on yourself, man, well, like, what do you need to change about your work habits, your study habits, what you do on the field, like whatever it may be to get you to that position? Because that person that's willing to bend themselves and they know they're doing everything right, that's the person that's the one that you hear with the NIL deal. That's the one, that's the names that are popping out that they got themselves to that level through dedication, through hard work, through the things that people don't see every day. I don't know if that kind of answers the question you're looking for, but
it does. Yeah, it does.
That's a good answer, Coach. That's great.
Thank you.
Anybody else before we move on to wide receivers want to ask one more thing to Coach Gross?
Yeah, I'll ask Coach. Just maybe not your guys, just other guys and other teams, or just at 7-on-7s or whatever kind of games you're at or whatever. Do you hear kids now since NIL's come out like, oh, this school said they're going to give me this school said they're going to give me that, stuff like that? Or you still don't hear that much of that?
I really don't hear too much of that, to be honest with you. Again, there's probably that little top percentage. I feel like NIL is one of those things that it's almost like it's like everyone knows it's there, but no one really knows until you get to the campus, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, like, yeah, Buddy just came buying a Range Rover. He didn't have a Range Rover when he went to school, but it's like when he's still in high school, it's kind of like this mystery. I'm sure, again, those top guys, but if you're, even on a state championship team, you could send 10 guys D1. One of them might be that guy, like the other guys have a D1 offer. But again, that top 50 ESPN class is,
yeah.
So I think it's still, it's we all know it's fully legal. It's definitely out there, but I don't really think it's fully developed into, at least that I've seen, like that conversation with every recruit, like, oh, as soon as you step in the door, you're gonna get this, you're gonna do this. Now I can tell you there are financial talks out the gate, because without NIL, schools are allowed to give you like living expenses, right? Like you live in a off-campus apartment, but you're a student, a full-time student, and that check is based on the like an average of the cost of the area that the school is in.
Okay.
So more affluent, for example, like if you're in a school in like LA or New York City or Miami, the cost of apartments and the cost of your water bill and all that goes into play of like what you get a month, and that's without NIL, just of like, this is the check you get every month for to pay rent and to pay this and to pay that. Because a lot of schools, there's still that dorm life, but a lot of schools, they're building apartment complexes right off the campus and housing their students there, and you get a check from the school to help subsidize that rent.
Yeah,
that's pretty open conversation now.
Coach, thank you so much. Cliff, thank you so much for the question. Coach, thank you so much for providing an answer and your insight once again. Switching over to wide receivers, at the thumbnail we have JoJo Trader, who really showed some signs in the how great he could be in the Pop-Tart Bowl. One of the best things that we saw in that game. Gio, since you're in practice and JoJo has a second year under his belt on the team, how good is JoJo Trader?
Well, I think it's not so much the question how good he is. I think a lot of us saw this even last year around this time, that he was really impressing people in practice. He was working with that first group before they got Sam Brown and a couple of these other guys last year. Jacoby George was like nursing a minor injury last spring too. So JoJo got a lot of time last year. I think what gets lost in the translation though of everything, just the broad scope with JoJo and what's coming up for him this year. Last year he was dealing with a shoulder issue, so he missed a lot of these games. And then fans were asking, they said, oh, like, why is JoJo not playing? Like, why is he not playing at all? And it was pretty much that. And obviously the coaches are not going to come right out, like just with their policy on the injuries and just say, yeah, JoJo's hurt. That's why he's not playing. That's why you also saw when the bowl game came around, he got his chance. I think it did a lot for his confidence too, heading into the spring. He's put on some size as well, about 10, 15 pounds from here, looks a bit more sturdy as well. It's been solid throughout practice. I'd say him and Charles Brantley, they're getting after it almost every single day in just those one-on-one situations. Even him with Xavier Lucas, he's gotten him a couple of times as well, but just healthy competition there. I think he's set for a good season. Honestly, I don't want to jump out and say like 1,000 yards or anything. I think, the ball will be distributed very well around to everyone, but I think he will have a very productive year. And I think he'll kind of put his name on the map a little bit.
I gotta ask you a question though, because him and Ewald were teammates in high school. What's it like looking at them go at it in practice? I'm sure they've gone at it a couple times.
Well, I'll tell you this. I would say that Chris Ewald is going to be one of those freshmen this year that could find himself a role. He's right there behind Charles Brantley at the nickel spot. He's been participating at safety as well with some of those guys. So he's been kind of one of those surprise early freshmen that if he carries it into fall, he could play early. I think what people forget too is JoJo and Chris Ewald, both of those guys. JoJo was a star since he was like a freshman in high school at Monsignor Pace. Then he went to Miami Central his second year. And honestly, I thought he was like the best player on that Central roster. You even go back to the state championship. He had like receiving touchdown, took a pick six back to the house, and had I think it was a punt return that he took back in the state title game. So JoJo has always been a phenomenal athlete. I can't really say anything more better about him. Some people call me crazy when I said this when these two guys were in high school, but I don't want people to take in my words wrong. But I think Jeremiah is the better wide receiver of the two, but I've always said that JoJo Trader is the better athlete of the two.
That's saying a lot because Jeremiah Smith is a stud, man. I mean, he really that's great to hear, man, because Jeremiah's a monster. But I'm glad you mentioned that. Coach, you got a chance to see JoJo and you got a chance to see Jeremiah as well. The national media, not here locally, but the national media downplays a lot of JoJo's success because of who's on the other side of the boundary alongside with him. How good is JoJo Trader from an athletic standpoint and a player standpoint?
That's a great question.
He's phenomenal. That Chaminade team, from not this past season, that season before with JoJo and JJ, and I think it was definitely top 5 greatest high school I've ever seen personally in my life. I said in high school, I remember sitting at a game and I told one of my friends, I said about Jeremiah Smith, I said I've coached absolutely phenomenal football players. That's the best football player I've ever seen in my life in high school. And, and JoJo was not far off. It was like, all right, like double team him and they're going, the other side, and they had CJ Bailey throwing the ball. It was like, what's my man on UNC, Bullet in the backfield. Like they were just stacked. I think that JoJo has the potential to, without a doubt, be a first-round draft pick. Down the line, I think if he keeps developing, I think that this can be that season that you start seeing that, him start breaking out. I think that as a receiver core in general, Miami has done some good things in the portal. I think that they might have the best high school recruited receiving core of any Big D1 I could think of. I just think they did a really, really good job getting kids out of high school. I think there's a lot of potential on that receiving core. I think they have a nice mix of the Z and X outside guys and the slot guys that can come across the middle and make things happen. And the more talent you have outside and inside, the more they open the field up for each other, right? It's like if you're gonna, if you're afraid to get beat deep and you're cover 2 or you're in trips, and I got a guy like Malachi Tony or Ray coming across the middle, some of these young guys that really I think could develop. You're opening the field up that, someone like Carson Beck, who has experience, you could work wonders with that. And then the second, as a defense, you have to start dropping back. You're opening up the run. So, I feel like they have all the tangibles to really put it together. And, I know JoJo's only a sophomore, but I really think he has the potential to be an intricate piece of that.
Yeah, Coach, again, great insight. Great insight. We're gonna move on to the other players as well. I'm gonna start first with Uncle Cliff, and then Benny. You'll get the same question. Cliff. Okay, so we have Nikar, we have Chance Robinson. We just mentioned JoJo Trader. Now we have Malachi Tony, Upshaw, Joshua Moore, who's been turning heads in practice as well, and we have a CJ Daniels, and we're probably gonna get another portal guy. But one of the things about the wide receiving core and at this current makeup is they're extremely talented, but there's a lot of inexperience on the squad comparable to last year's in general. What impact do you think the players I just mentioned can make on this football team? And do you think that once the race starts going, it doesn't matter, they'll just take off and run with the ball and be very successful?
Yeah, that's my biggest thing, is just the inexperience. I mean, I think talent-wise, we're right there. I mean, I think we got some special kids at wide receiver. I think we need to add one more portal wide receiver to help just with experience. I know, I was going to bring up before you said it, the Moore kid. I mean, that catch that he had with the one-handed catch was, I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, to see a freshman kid do that is amazing. I think we need one more portal guy there just with experience, just to help out, even to, mentor the younger kids. That's what we're missing there.
Benny, you're up, buddy.
Yeah, man, I go back and forth about the experience conversation, because I've had this conversation too many times on my shows. Like the obviously we had experience there last year with the other upperclassmen. So it was I would have loved to seen the younger guys get some rotations, some snaps. But I go back because I was like, oh man, I'm thinking. So I think oh, Malachi Tony's gonna pop, right? But I was like, oh man, what does that mean for Ray Ray? Those Ray bounce. It was Ray had a press conference, yo man, I'm sticking this through. I got to see this through. So it's we so often think that if you're not the first guy out, you're gonna bounce, and that would mess up our depth and everything. Because if somebody leaves that room, we got a lot more questions. Yeah. We already have a lack of experience, right? Mm-hmm. Our most experienced guy is a transfer porter that just started practicing this past probably within the last week, and CJ, right? So JoJo's been good, but JoJo's whatever. We'll leave that out. So it's been we have the hope for that. So it's do you go with a transfer guy in the thing that then you have to push down the younger guy, or do you just let the younger guy figure it out? And that portal balance is crazy, right? To get that experience guy was yo, but you have these talented young killers that want to go out there, but it's you get the portal guy, you promise him NIL, and then you got to play him. So it's always I go back and forth with that chicken or the egg type of thing. Do you get the upperclassman guy to shore up stuff with Carson Beck, or do you let the young guys cook for the future of the program? So it's trying to figure all that out is a challenge. But with all that said, is Josh Moore is a freaking Josh Moore does not look Gio. Josh Moore does not look like a freshman. Josh Moore plays his size. A lot of 6'4" guys play small, right? Because they've always been the bigger kid in class. Josh Moore does not do that. Josh Moore goes, no, I'm going to dunk on you every time the ball's up in the air. The ball's up in the air, I'm getting that ball. I don't care what you're thinking about your life. And he's doing that against Xavier Lucas. Not a Charles Brandon because he's a nigga, but in any position, he's showing it. So he's what I'm excited about because of the transformation he made from January to now. Just hope JoJo and CJ can complement that with Malachi and Ray. And you say these names and you go down the line yo, these guys are talented, but we just haven't seen it. You know what I'm saying? It's just that hope, I hope it all clicks, but we just don't know. And then it just goes back to oh yeah, but we had 6 amazing pass catchers last year, so it makes sense that they didn't get to see the field. Yeah. So I kind of go back and forth. See how I just ping pong my own thoughts? That's how I've been this whole time, bro. It's do we play them, or do you get another portal guy? Why get a slot when you already have 2 guys in the slot? But you know what I'm saying? It just goes. It goes so hard. I'm just glad I don't make that decision, and I get to talk about it on here. And after this, I go watch the pit, and I'm good. You know what I'm saying? After this, it's over. So yeah, that's all I got. Just a little bit.
No, you're good, man. Because I was actually going to piggyback on something you said or something you were alluding to in regards to Joshua Moore. Joshua Moore is a freak of nature, but the one thing I did hear about him, which I honestly speaking, when I was looking at the huddle, I didn't see it. But then again, huddle usually gets the best of what a kid does, not the worst. The one small criticism about Joshua Moore was footwork, as far as getting off his block and so on and cutting. Gio, have you seen any of that quote unquote weakness in practice, or is Coach Beard and that's not gonna be a problem for you at the start of the season.
Yeah, well, Coach Beard is the type of coach that's very big on attention to detail. So everything that he does with his wide receivers in that room, it's very intentional, everything he teaches. So just in regards to the whole wide receiver situation, though, because I want to piggyback off of something Benny was saying, and I actually agree with him. I go back and forth on it. I do know what their thought process is. You're likely to see 2 wide receivers that they'll go after, a big X type, and then a slot wide receiver. I do know there's a big X wide receiver that's contemplating leaving his school and entering the transfer portal in the upcoming week. We'll see if Miami ends up getting involved. There's a lot of players speaking with their age, trying to put feelers out because let's be honest here, most of these kids already have somewhat of an inkling of what schools they are going to be looking at before they even hit the portal. That's the reality. So in terms of the whole wide receiver room, I like to take a little bit of caution when it comes to some of these young guys because I've seen this happen many times before, just over the years with young players that some guys will flash in the spring or sometimes they'll even carry it into fall, and then you get to game day and they kind of choke up or they freeze up in the moment and they may not be ready yet. I go back to Jacoby George's more year. Jacoby George was dominating every spring practice and scrimmage. Mario Cristobal's first year he got here. Jacoby George, unfortunately, got suspended, got in for the Texas A&M game, seemed like the receiver with a pulse in that game, and then ends up breaking his hand in practice a couple of days later, and then his sophomore season was over. So we can't really quantify like the known yet. I would love for JoJo to step up this year. I think he's more of a sure shot type of guy that will step up this season and have a significant role. But when it comes to the other guys, I look at their viewpoint with the transfer portal as you're taking out insurance policy, especially after you put an investment into a guy like Carson Beck. I think it's very risky to kind of bet on, let's see what it is, Nykar's redshirt freshman, Chance Robinson, and the other 3 guys, even though they've all flashed at different points, like Josh Moore, Malachi Toney, Dalen Upshaw, all 3 of those guys have had some days in practice where you're just like, wow, like I know over a week ago, Dalen Upshaw was killing it like 2 practices in a row. So that's great and dandy, but again, you got to take out that insurance policy and you let the best man win it. I will say though, one last counterpoint. Sam Brown last year. This is the good and the bad that happens with the transfer portal. It was great in concept when they got him. Freakish athleticism too. You're talking about a guy 6'2", 205, 210 pounds, running a 4.4 40. I think he had like 37, 38 vertical in his testing, like at the time. But then the production didn't really match those type of measurables. I know there was some off-field issues there, some questions even about effort, even a couple of times that Cam Ward was even getting on him too. So there was things there that they weren't really seeing eye to eye. So that's kind of the ugly side of the portal that sometimes happens too.
Okay. Good points, guys. Before we move on to the next segment, Juan has been asking questions like crazy in the comment section. So I want to, yeah, well, I love the fact that he's been very supportive. So I want to I want to have his answer question. So Benny and Gio, specifically you both. Okay, this goes to both of you, Benny and Gio. Benny and Gio. Benito. It's Juan is Benito. Benito tonight. Benito. All right, Benny and Gio, specifically you both. Oh, I just put it up there. Let me just put it up there. Let's knock my microphone down too. You both have sources or been in practice and see with your eyes. Can you compare the talent level and body type since Mario got here in 2022, where it's most glaring? Yeah, they're bigger. But you guys want to answer bigger dudes. You want to answer that question, starting first with Gio, then we'll go to Benny?
Yeah, I'll answer it short and sweet. When it comes to talent level, I think this year's team's a little more well-rounded than last year's team. There was some holes in some spots. I say this all the time. I don't understand what was the thought process going into the season that you knew back in spring that Mish Powell was a nickel and you ended up moving him to safety and you didn't even I feel like there wasn't enough of a strong effort to go and get another safety or two out of the portal last year. I expect them to handle that differently this year, getting another guy next to Zachariah Poyser this year. So talent level wise, I think this team's more well-rounded than last year. I think there was maybe more headliners like your Damian Martinez's of the world or Simeon Barrow, but Miami still got an opportunity to add some more headliners. And I think people forget this, that a year ago at this time, Miami added Damian Martinez, Sam Brown, Simeon Barrow, Tyler, and maybe forgetting one or two names, but those were guys that were key contributors last season. Now, on the aspect of like overall talent over the years, I think it is Miami's most talented team. And I think a lot of that will do not with this most recruiting class that came in, the one prior. I think some of those guys are going to take a step this year that people were really excited about. You guys like Armando Blunt, Marquise Lightfoot, Justin Scott. Those guys are really going to be big-time contributors this year on the defensive line. Now, size, though, very simple. You don't have offensive linemen that are 6 foot. Like, we literally had an offensive lineman that was barely 6 foot on this roster when Mario Cristobal first got here.
Yes, we did.
Lawrence, Big Baby Seymour, hell of a high school player. I always had a hot take that I felt like he should have been a defensive tackle. I know he played some of that during his Little League days. That's just my opinion. But the offensive linemen, they've gotten much bigger. You see the body types of what they're trying to recruit at defensive back. For the most part, it's guys that are 6 foot, 6'1" and above, length, speed, size, even with the safety position as well. As you don't really see smaller guys. Linebackers, I know it's trending towards that direction. I've actually been told a couple comments that they're not entirely in love with what they have in the linebacker room right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to throw some numbers at that this spring to even try to quick fix it for before the season. So size-wise, it's a vast difference, vast difference from the very first Mario Cristobal arrived, even to the point of like the defensive tackles. We had a lot of undersized defensive tackles when Mario Cristobal was first here. Now you have guys in that room that are 6'4", 6'5", 6. They had a guy like who was 6'7" in the rotation last year. So bigger bodies.
Yeah, Gio took all my points. We had none, like legit 2022. There was offensive linemen that I was like, oh, we don't have. Like when you saw the difference of like CC, that was his first year, right? The CC were like, oh, that's a 18-year-old child that was bigger than guys who had been here for like four years. I was like, oh my God, we're really like we were small, bro. Like we like came out. We have orange and green glasses, but we were a small football team. Like you see that to now. Like I got look. I'm very lucky to have been at practice on Saturday. Thank you to people who made it possible. I'm looking at that. I was like, I'm a 41-year-old man. I'm not a small guy. You guys that have, you know what I'm saying? You met me, Gio. I met you guys. I'm not a small guy. I look like a child next to these 18-year-olds, bro. Like I stood next to like Jaden Wilkerson. That's like a 3-star guy. This guy towered over me. I felt like a baby. I was like, yo, I'm a grown man, dog. Like the size on this line is crazy. Armando Blunt, I mean, he just turned 18. Brilliant mind, and he is like this team. Marquise, like everybody. There's people who are like, there's building a narrative of like Marquise Lightfoot. If you see Marquise Lightfoot in person, you think completely differently than what you like. Social media tells you. He's a solid 245, 250, ripped up. Like it is. This team is, and the thing is, like we're saying names, but it's not just a one-off. There's waves of those guys coming. In the past, all of us have fought. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Hayden Lowe, exactly. Like there's waves of that guy coming. In the past, it'd be like, yo, we got this one guy at safety, so let's scheme our whole defense to try to make that work. No, now that across the field, yes, there's some spots like Gio said, you need safety, maybe a couple linebackers. But like overall, there's waves of guys in certain positions, and you just keep building that out. It's been impressive to see, and the patience that he has, because Coach Cristobal, and somebody watches the social media, he's just like, hey man, I'm just gonna keep my head down and keep doing what I got to do, because I'm gonna just build this football team because I got a 10-year contract and I'm gonna make it work. And it's been fantastic, bro, because that level of dedication and patience isn't for a lot of people. Because I guarantee you, 4 out of the 5 of us, or all 5 of us, wouldn't have it. Like, yo, man, I'm overpaying for everybody in the portal every spring. He's like, nah, man, this is what I'm gonna do.
Well, Benny, since you brought up your height, I don't know if you saw the show last night. Me and Flo were discussing how tall you were. I didn't realize how tall you were until I met you in person last year.
Yeah.
I had you around 6'1", 6'2". Flo says you're taller. So can you settle this discussion? How tall actually are you?
First of all, I want to say that Flo is deceptively tall. Also, for like when you see him in person, because you think he's like 5'6", 5'7", because of the way he sets up his camera. But he's like legit. I'm 6'2.5" if I stand up straight. I have terrible posture. I hunch way too much. So if I'm locked in, I'm 6'2.5", maybe 6'3" on a good day.
Okay.
I'm saying if the wind's right. If the wind's right, I'm 6'3".
Yeah, because I had you like 6'1", 6'2", but Flo said you were taller. So I guess you stood up straight for Flo, so he made you 6'3".
Shout out to my Uncle Flo, man. That's my guy, bro.
Yeah, he's a beast, man. And I'm so grateful he came on last night. Okay, so this question is for all of you. This is Juan's second question, and then we'll move on to the final segment for tonight. All right, so Juan, bless all in the panel. Thank you so much, sir. God bless you too. We, as fan of the Canes, appreciate you guys so much since we're starting for football. Question for all in the panel. Okay, do you guys go through spring football withdrawal? Okay, we'll start first with Gio, then we'll go to Coach, Benny, Cliff, and then I'll give the final answer. So, Mr. Milian, take it away.
Yeah, it's tough and there's no practice around because I always say this every year. I say, hope springs eternal. Spring football, it's the most exciting time of the year because, well, I try to tell any lies, but there's a lot of lies and propaganda that happens around this time of the year too. And you just hear some crazy things that some of the fans say. And especially like if you go to the practices or people that are out there, you just kind of like, okay, like where'd you hear that? Because that's not true. So that's why sometimes I laugh. But yeah, most definitely. Let's see. The season ended basically, it was December, the bowl game, and then a couple months and whatnot. But those couple months felt like forever. And I know now, at least the spring portal will help people out with some excitement. There will be movement and whatnot. But that May to June, like that's going to be dreadful for people. Outside of recruiting. At least you have recruiting that'll help here and there.
July's gonna suck.
Coach Joe.
Man, I won't even address spring football. I'm just gonna answer it like this. So, like now with streaming with like Netflix and all the streaming services, like I legitimately only pay for cable because of college football. like I'm paying extra $100 a month for 3-4 months a year, and I don't care. Like that's literally why I have Xfinity to watch. Saturday comes on the second I wake up till 2 a.m. because of Hawaii or some random team on ESPN Plus. It's like it doesn't leave the TV. So yeah, I mean, anytime you get even glimpses of it, I'm excited, whether it's spring or recruiting in the summer. But obviously August comes and everyone's like on the edge of their seat.
Benito.
Yeah, man. Shout out to streaming services, bro. Joe, like find a good show when it's like that. You know what I'm saying? You dip your toes in a little bit with like recruiting and stuff. But when on Saturday when this ends, and then Wednesday when like the portal officially opens, we'll start hearing names. It's gonna be bro. After that, it's rough, man. It's rough. Like it's like you're just waiting. You're just waiting. It's like there's like they don't drop any good shows during the summer because the seasons end. And you're just like, bro, do a movie or something. I'm saying, but Marvel's got some movies coming out this summer. But yeah, man, it sucks, bro. Like doing content during that time is so tough because it's like you gotta like figure it out and talk about, try to keep it engaging. Oh man, it's not fun. But thankfully, what is it? May and June, recruiting weekends. July's a dead period, so July is gonna be tough. Usually when you'll have some commits and the graphics popping, and then August is football. And I say all that like, oh, that's cheap. Well, those are going to be like 7 or 8 days out of those like 4 months that are going to be in. You know what I'm saying? And the rest of that time, you got to be like, yo, man, is Jackson Catwell going to commit this week? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Is what's going on with Derek Cooper? Then you got to like have those conversations. But other than that, obviously, a little recommendation: watch The Pit on HBO Max. That show is fire. It's like 15 episodes. It's like 24 because every hour there's an hour in the ER, and it's just dope. Just highly recommended. So check it out. That's mine.
Thank you, Mr. Boondocks.
Non-football recommendation.
Uncle Cliff.
Yeah, I'm with these guys. those couple months are the worst. I mean, it's boring as hell. And like even Benny said that the shows even end for the summer and stuff. So it's terrible, bro. It's dreadful. And I'm just like Coach. As soon as I wake up, my wife knows. As soon as I wake up on Saturday, I'm watching College Game Day, and I'm not leaving my basement until all the games are over. I'm him. I'll be watching a Hawaii or some team like that. Like I don't even know a person on the team, and I'm still watching the game at 1:30 in the morning, half asleep. Like wake up, like oh man, there's somebody scored. Oh damn, then I'm back up again. It gets wild, but yeah, those couple months are brutal, man. As soon as it's over, it's like a death in the family. As soon as college football season's over, it's terrible.
Yeah, on my end, I do go through withdrawal. I do find myself listening to Canes content all the time, as much as I can, as well. July though tends to be a little bit more. I feel like guys commit more in July, at least for the summer. So that it gets
official visits in May and June. Yeah.
Yeah, so it gets exciting. I remember Marquise Lightfoot committed. I believe it was around July 4th weekend a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I remember I was in Pompano, at the time. So yeah. But to piggyback on what Benny says, yeah, dude, I do binge. All right, I'm actually watching Goodfellas again because I love that movie. So I'm watching it. Yeah, I'm watching it right now again, and so on. A good show to watch. I discovered it because I bought Paramount Plus in January. Was Tulsa King. Freaking love that show.
It's awesome.
2 great seasons. Stallone's the man, right? Gotta say, guy's 70 years old and he's still believable that he can slaughter people in a fight. It's fantastic. It's like guys like 70 throwing guys half his age through windows. It's fantastic.
Real quick, another good one from the same writer. Landman is fire.
Okay.
Yellowstone, 1923 and 1883 are all fire because it's all the same writer. Like I just watch it, I'm like, hey, bro, how do you do this? Like, how do you write all these shows and do them fantastic? Like, it's crazy. So it's all like it's a Taylor Sheridan universe.
Yeah, he's great.
Mayor of Kingstown too is another fire one.
I heard that's actually a really good show, a really fantastic show. Before I go, another great show, and I'm just waiting for the prequel to come out. Is Terminal List, the one with Chris Pratt, that he did. Yeah, he's a Navy SEAL. Antoine Fuqua is a very underrated director, in my opinion. And he did a phenomenal job with that show, and the sequel should be coming out soon.
Have a different conversation, Gio. With Will, bro, we're about to have a different conversation because Antoine Fuqua is, bro. Dennis Villeneuve and Sicario. Have you seen that? That guy is a phenomenal director, bro.
I just finished part 2, by the way. Part 2 was awesome.
Oh, bro, they're making a third one.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they left it open. With Benicio del Toro, they left it open.
All day. All right, my bad. We'll get sidetracked. I can talk about.
It's cool. I'll just finish my take. Yeah. So yeah, but I'm excited as well. During the season, if there's ever an occasion where we have to go somewhere like for a family arrangement, I tell my wife, I go, don't be upset, but I'm not talking to anybody. Let you know that right now. So if I'm rude, if I'm quiet, if I'm like, the Canes are playing, okay, and they might be playing Florida State. Oh, doesn't matter. We're very quiet. Okay, what the hell? The Handmaid's Tales?
Yeah, that's a good show.
You've seen it?
Yeah, I watched the first 3. Yeah, dude, I'm married. Of course, I saw that show.
Oh, okay.
My wife, that's one of those she put on. I was like, all right. Then I got into it. Then I was like, okay, this is stupid. We stopped watching that.
All right, ladies and gents.
I'm very picky.
We got 904 people watching tonight. Thank you so much. It's a nice way to conclude day 4 of 305 Live Spring Week. Okay, but before we end tonight's show, I do want to do one more segment. I want to change this up a little bit because I've been doing like, what's your outlook for the season? I want to change that up because I don't want to be so monotonous. In general, Shady McCoy gave me great material the other day. Shady McCoy decides, and some people think it's just a troll job, but he decides to say that the reason why he's not sold on Cam Ward, I heard it's a good show, by the way. He's not sold on Cam Ward is because he's never seen a 0-star recruit coming out of high school ball out in the NFL. I thought that was one of the dumbest takes I've ever heard, considering that you've had guys that ball out in college and they stink in the National Football League. I can't guarantee that Cam's going to be great, but I do think if Tennessee, which I think he's going to go to Tennessee, it almost seems like it's a no-brainer. If they do surround him with some decent pieces, he can make a lot happen on that team. All right. So we're going to do a round table about McCoy's comments, starting first with Uncle Cliff. What did you think about Shady? And what's your perspective on his comments?
I posted something the other day as soon as I heard that. And that guy to me is one of the worst guys on TV that talks about sports. He just throws some crap up there, and just I hope he really doesn't believe that. I mean, I hope it is a troll and he's just saying that, but knowing him, it probably is real, and it's just an idiotic take. I mean, come on, you watched Cam Ward play in college. I mean, I'm not saying either he's going to be, a pro baller or anything like that. I think he'll have a solid, good career, but for him to say that is just ridiculous.
Yeah, agreed.
He's
Benito.
a clown. He's a clown.
Yeah, he totally is. He totally is. Benito.
I'm gonna keep it simple, man. Not all engagement is good engagement. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to say the dumbest ish possible for a click, bro. Like, you played football, you've seen quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying? You understand that not. You know what I'm saying, like, not everybody is like the 5-star guy doesn't eventually develop into a superstar. That's not how this works, man. If that was the case, every 5-star quarterback would be in the Hall of Fame. Guess what? They're not, man. Some of them don't make it out of college. Some of them don't get drafted. It doesn't happen. That's not a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid isn't gonna be the future when they're graded out, and they're not even fully done growing, or the offense. Like, it's stupid. Yeah, but everybody gotta have a take, right? And that's what happens when everybody gotta have a take. It's just you say stuff like that.
Juan, facts. I saw your comment. Facts. Coop. Coach Joe, what's your take?
I'll say two things. So, I mean, I like Cam a lot, but I'm gonna say two things. One is that, I always have preached. I'm a firm believer. The most important position group on any football program at any level is the offensive line. Right? Like, I think they're the only group that you cannot, if they're really bad, you can't make up for it with any other position group. So saying that to say this, I think that going from high school to college and going from college to NFL, the absolute hardest position to evaluate a quarterback. And I think a huge reason is there are just so many other tangibles on a team that a quarterback really needs to be successful. So, I think he has the attributes. I think it's almost impossible to say what his career is going to be because of, so many unknowns in the future. But, I mean, I really hope he has a phenomenal career. And I think, he's definitely going to put in the work and the effort and do everything he can do to have a phenomenal career. But I think quarterbacks is such a hard position, in the National Football League to evaluate from college coming into the pros.
Thank you so much, Coach. Gio.
Whew. I got a heck of a hot take, but I'll try to keep it short and sweet as possible. I'm sure everyone saw my comment on X. I said there are certain athletes that are just being hired in sports media because they were great athletes. But there's also this flip side to the coin that you have guys like your Tony Romos, your Greg Olsons, your Bradshaws, your Tom Brady's that are great at analyzing the game, that they have actually intellectual thoughts rather than a 15-year-old's reaction saying, oh, well, he wasn't a 5-star coming out of high school, which I thought was the most ridiculous thing because into that, let's look at guys that had stars or barely any stars at all coming out of high school. Khalil Mack, who played for Buffalo, was drafted by the Raiders before they went off to Vegas. He became a defensive player of the year. He was a 0-star recruit out of the Fort Pierce, Florida area. Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills, very lowly recruited guy coming out of high school, played for Wyoming. What he's doing for the Bills. Or even a bigger one, a guy out of the Texas area, Pat Mahomes. Yep. Very, very lowly recruited, wasn't a highly rated guy. And I also go to this point, my last point on this. Fine, you want to say, oh, he was a 0-star recruit. I've never seen a guy do that, which is a lie in itself. But the offense that Cam Ward played in coming out of high school, that also played a factor. In a wing T offense, no one really knew what his capability was. And also, Shady McCoy is crazy for even saying what he said in the first place because there's guys that explode once they get into a college weight training program. Some of these kids, I know this for a fact, speaking to coaches, they're eating McDonald's or Burger King every day. There's no real nutrition plan, or they're not in the weight room religiously like you would be in a college football program. So guys can improve year over year. Like we've seen this before. I go back to way back. I'm sure many people remember this here. Anyone remember Carson Palmer when he was at USC? Was terrible for most of his career, but by the time he got to like his final year or two, he became like a Heisman caliber quarterback at USC. So guys can get better. It doesn't mean like, oh, you're a 0-star quarterback in high school. No GM is watching high school film of a player and determining, oh yeah, 0-star recruit, we're just not going to take him at all. Like we're just going to bypass all his college film. We're going to bypass what he did at Miami this year. We're going to bypass the records he set. We're going to ignore the fact of how many touchdowns he threw in his career, which by the way is a collegiate record now. So it's just crazy.
Yeah.
McCoy, shame on him, and someone seriously got to cut his mic.
Hey, someone made a good point in there too. The Watt brothers, both the Watt low recruits too.
Yeah,
and Gio, you said the guy in broadcasting, Tony Romo, was another guy that was barely a 1-star, 2-star kind of kid.
Yeah.
Quick about
Jerry Rice.
Gary Rice. Yep.
Oh, was that Joe?
Cam, obviously, real quick about Cam Ward. He obviously had, a great career in Miami, but it's like so many people forget that. And he was tearing it up at Washington State. It's not like he was a 1-year guy. Like this guy has been doing this, Yep. He proved his ability on, at 2 completely different D1 universities, which I think goes a testament to him,
Yeah, good point.
He went from
he's not a one-hit wonder.
He went from the FCS to the Pac-12 to the ACC. Showed he can compete against ACC teams too. It's crazy talk. That's
all you can say.
Yeah, he's balled everywhere he's gone. He went Incarnate War, destroyed every record, made Washington State, watchable because it was all him. And then he played better in Miami than Jim Kelly, Bernie Kosar, Gino Torretta, and Ken Dorsey. All of them won national championships or at least a Heisman Trophy. So I mean, like it's just ridiculous. Again, there's no guarantee he's going to be great, but he's got the tools to be great, and he's got the motivation, and he's got the pedigree and the history of working hard towards a goal. So I do think that Cam has a lot of potential. Again, if Tennessee surrounds him with the right pieces, and Coach Jonah, you and I have talked about this, as long as you have a great O-line, you can do whatever you want, on your offense. That's going to be the key to Cam's success. If they draft well for him, they surround him with the right pieces, he could be very, very successful. Anthony, in reference to your question, and I know you talked about the hardest positions. I think quarterback is the hardest. A lot of times offensive linemen, they tend to somewhat pan out when they come from high school if they're highly regarded as well. I think quarterback's a little harder because sometimes you have a system guy. You have a system guy in high school, and then they go into a school and they just don't work out very well. Kyle Wright, I think also Miami didn't do many services, but Kyle Wright was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, and he didn't live up to those expectations when he was at Miami. Just to give you one example in UM's history. So I think the toughest one to really, really, really get a true evaluation on would be quarterback, because a lot of times there's a lot of things that have to go right for the individual, the individual to be successful. Like for example, a lot of the haters for Carson Beck are because of his numbers, somewhat regressed from last year to the year prior. But he also had 500 yards of drop balls, and he also had an offensive line that wasn't up to par. And his best target, Brock Bowers, got drafted, and they really didn't replace him, with the next man up deal or even in the portal. So I do think I think quarterback is the most difficult position to evaluate coming out of high school into college and even the pros.
Facts.
Yeah, for sure. Also, if Cam Ward played on Ohio State or Notre Dame or Michigan or one of those teams, people would be glazing the hell out of him. So a lot of it has to do with him being at Miami too.
All facts.
No, absolutely. And I'll say this right here. If the defense would have been anything close to what we had with Cam Kitchens and James Williams and Kiko when he was sacking people in the end zone, but they were calling it a safety, Miami wins the national championship, or at least is in the Final Four. There's no way to stop that offense. No way. pick your poison. If you want to play a too high shell, fine. Martinez would have ran it down your throat. If you want to play up in the box, okay, deep ball to a row. I mean, it was the perfectly sculpted offense this past season. And then, like D-Money said, national championship offense, below average defense. That's pretty much what he said, and I completely agree.
Yeah, group of 5 defense.
Yeah,
on a good day.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Solid defense. That's a Final Four team for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely. No, definitely.
I'm never going to be emotionally mature enough to handle the 2024 season, knowing what we had with Cam and how bad the defense was. Like every time somebody brings it up, like my whole body just like shuts down. Was like, because all I could think of was like, oh, they're going in motion. Then it's like trauma all over again. So it's fantastic.
Yes.
Thanks, Will. It was like it had been 4 days since nobody mentioned the defense. So thank you for that.
Sorry, I've been mentioning every night.
All I thought of, Benny's like, I like your sign, and then you brought that up. I was ready to turn around and break it.
Well, I mean, it's the truth. Yeah, I do think they would have won. They would have won it all if that defense would have been better. I mean, it's just the case. Going to what Hassan was saying, yes, Ed Reed in today's college football would have been a 2-star recruit. The way they were evaluating back then.
Ray Lewis wasn't even was a 0-star. They went and found him.
Yeah,
randomly. So he wasn't even
They were
even
there to
anywhere.
watch a teammate or another kid.
Yeah, exactly. It was a random offer. So yeah.
Yeah, Butch said we can't miss. We don't have any scholarships. That was Butch Davis, so we can't miss. Gentlemen, thank you so much. We've gone over an hour. 1,100 eyeballs, man. Thank you guys so much. What a nice finale. What a nice finale to day 4 of 305 Live Spring Week, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, all right. Gentlemen, starting first with Uncle Cliff. Where can we find you? Name every handle you can.
Just on X on Cliff311.
Okay. That's it. Gio, you're all over the place.
Yeah, everyone, you can find me on X at Gio Milian. Same thing on Instagram as well. I run a weekly show with Amon Richards, the great Amon Richards, greatest freshman wide receiver in Miami Hurricanes history. We got the week called Who Wants Smoke. I got weekly appearances like Locked on Canes, Comics on Caneswear podcast as well. I'm everywhere. Said.
He needs to have a clicker up top that just shows all the shows. Like ESPN.
Yeah, definitely. Doggy Wazowski. No, the spring game is not being televised. Benny and I were talking about it before the show started. So no, will not be televised. Okay, yeah. Coach Joe, is there any social media that you want us to follow you on, or anything you have going on, or just no?
You can find me occasionally on 305 Sports Now.
There we go. You will be on more frequently, man. This was a good time, man. I really am grateful for you guys. Guys, thank you so much for joining the show and coming on. Oh, Benny. Oh, God. I'm so sorry. Boondocks.
I changed my name, and all of a sudden you forgot I was here. No, that's fine.
Boondocks. I'm so sorry. Benito, I'm sorry. Go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
No, you're good, man. I'm just messing with you. You already know every Wednesday and Sunday, 6 p.m. live on our YouTube channel, UHeard Pod. Goes out to everywhere you get your podcast. Follow me at Benito Boondocks because I just changed it. I didn't like the Benny. Obviously not my real name. You know what I'm saying? Keep the other stuff out of the way. Follow my guy Joe at Joe Skilliams, Poe Kane. Sorry for your loss, my brother. Love you, man. Sending you our love, bro. And my guy CB, man. You know what I'm saying? We have a great time over there. And whenever you guys want to come on, Gio, we gotta have you on. We had a little link up last year where it didn't happen, but we gotta have you and just chop it up. Maybe Wednesday for the spring portal official opening. We'll figure it out. But you got your so we'll figure it out, man. Hey, man, appreciate it. Will, my brother, you are. I don't give you enough credit, man. You are a genuine light in this craziness, bro. You are a good, honest person, man. That's why so many people rock with you, man. Thank you for everything you do, man. You see how you put everything together, man. Thank you. And like I told you years ago, whenever you need me, man, hit me up. I'll help you in any way I can, bro. So thank you again for having me, man.
Thank you so much for coming on, Ben. You've been a very good friend to me, and I really appreciate that. Your podcast has been very good to me. Very good friends to me as well. Very good friend of the show 305 Sports Now. And again, we talked about Shady McCoy. These people need to understand that you don't have to be inauthentic to get eyeballs. Benny right now is one of the, and the UHeard podcast, of course, with Polk and CB and Joey, is one of the most successfully running UM-oriented Canes podcast out there right now. They have a machine going. You guys, if you haven't seen it, you guys got to check it out. Subscribe, share. They're genuinely, everything they say, they mean. Okay,
And
everything
I
they say they
apologize,
mean.
we do curse. We do curse. I want to put that out there. Don't watch it on. It's explicit content. It's for adults. If you're watching around your kids, it's not my fault. It's live. It's our real, genuine reactions in
15
that moment.
15
Yeah,
and up.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. NC-17 out here, man.
You guys are great, man. Thank you so much. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's show, all right. And by the way, I also want to say Kane Sport, part of the FTSN network, please subscribe to all. They have like 10,000 shows over at FTSN. They got everything from Kane's commentary to pro wrestling to fantasy football, all right, as well. And they'll be going on in the draft as well. Subscribe to the FTSN network. Check out all their shows. Gio, I've been seeing you on Kane Sport quite a bit. Are you an active member or are you just a contributor?
Well, with
That's
Caneswear?
what I'm plug you in on the Caneswear podcast. Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, I'm on there every Wednesday as well. My
Okay.
main show is Who Wants Smoke with
Who
me
Wants
and
Smoke,
Amon.
yeah.
I do a bunch of different appearances, even WQAM sometimes as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah, nice.
Man, Gio's out there, dude.
Yeah, he
Gio's
is all over the place, man.
outside. Gio
He is all over the
outside.
place, dude.
Next time we have him on, we'll have the clicker, ESPN clicker up top.
Yeah, Gio is on tonight, and he'll be on somewhere else tomorrow.
GOSPN. GOSPN.
Will's like, oh man, I'm tired after 4 days. This is Gio's like 156 day.
I know.
And just today, like this is 156 days in one. He just got off one show to another and still raising kids. Shout out to my guy Gio, man.
Yeah, it's
That's
true, man.
6
That's
minutes a night.
How's the little one?
And it's
How's the little one, buddy?
The kids,
Yeah.
they're all doing great. All three of them.
Awesome, man. Awesome. All right, ladies. All right. No, we're finally signing off. Okay. This happens a lot when we're on each other's shows. Just to let you guys know. Okay. Guys, thank you so much for, again, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to 305 Sports Now. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to everything Gio's doing because it's a lot. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to UHeard, all right, the UHeard podcast. And do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the FTSN network, which also has the Caneswear podcast that's on quite a bit. Guys, have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for a wonderful 4 days. Again, thank you to Hoodie Girl who kicked us off with my cousin John. Thank you so much to Tyreek Gracia as well, who actually works with me every so often at West End High School, former nickel corner for Ole Miss. Thank you so much, of course, to Lex, Flo, and Q again of the I Hate Football podcast. And thank you, gentlemen, once again tonight for joining the show. Guys, go Canes. God bless. See you soon. Sayonara.
Go Canes. God bless.
Go Canes.
Go Canes.